Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hi, Maurice. Good morning. Yeah.
Yes,
Hi, and good morning.
good afternoon for you,
Hey,
right?
yeah.
Is it Beijing or
Shanghai. Stay in
Shanghai?
Shanghai.
Yeah.
Shanghai.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's Georgia and there's Jessica and Paul. Yeah, now they're coming in. Good. Hello, Min as well. Yes, hello, Jessica. But now we start. So officially, a very warm welcome to everybody here. It is really nice to see you, and I am very excited to do what we are going to do today. So for those of you that don't really know me yet, my name is Maurice Jenkens. I'm running the Intuitive Leader. That's the name of my company. And since this month, also the Intuitive Leader podcast, as well as I've opened the gates to the Intuitive Leader community, which is also completely new. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what I do later on, but it's not so interesting for now. I just want to tell you that the reason why I do this, and that is probably for me, the driver, the most important stuff, and that is that I want to facilitate, I want to create a space, a safe space where you, founders, company leaders, CEOs, can come together and explore their own intuitive intelligence to self discover, self express what they really want to do in life, and basically come to true fulfillment. And I want to give that safe space where we can use both our logical brains, intuitive mind, and explore those elements without being judged or without being abandoned by half the company. So it's really a matter of um, self-knowing to some extent and then self-realization. That's my take. That's why I do this. And then the guests, and I see one of my guests here, Eugene, very much welcome. I, each guest brings with him or her a different aspect of intuition. And my take on it is in episode 1, and I will talk about that later on. So, having said that, the agenda for today is very simple. We have 40 minutes, basically two halves. The first half, I will introduce the podcast and some of my guests and their take on intuition, which is really interesting. And the second half, I will open up to you, because that is the whole point. I want to create this community and I want you to feel the safe space to actually either ask questions or simply share your stories. And hopefully by the end of these 40 minutes, you feel inspired. That's the point. So if you would just check in with yourself, how do you feel right now between 1 and 10, where 1 is absolutely miserable and 10 is couldn't be better? You don't have to say the number, just for yourself, if you have a number. So, very fast, briefly, the story behind this podcast. For 3 years ago, I started to do research on intuition and also about um, issues and topics related to intuitive intelligence, psychological safety, culture of trust, the ability to read the room, either for leaders or for salespeople. And then from various people, I heard that why don't you start a podcast? And I love the idea, but I didn't really do it. I recorded many of my interviews, but I didn't do anything more with it and just, well, shelved them basically. By now, I've done 50 deep interviews, not all of them on my podcast, but many of them to basically understand what is intuitive leadership, what is safety, what is trust, and how do people actually use it. So for 9 months ago, I started to actually do the podcast thing, officially recording them, finding out what tool to use, a zillion mini decisions I had to make. But one thing was clear to me: I wanted to make it a interview style podcast. I didn't want it to revolve about myself, but I wanted my guests to elevate the topic of intuition and to share with them their knowledge. So that has been the way in. And I can also tell you that the levels of the mutual respect and the connection I've experienced with my guests have just been phenomenal. And it's just that the ability to connect on this level has been really, really, really great and worth the effort. And now 9 months later, I finally birthed the whole thing. It's finally open. It's finally there. And 2 episodes are live, and the third episode will come soon. So during these interviews, I've asked 5 questions all the time, repetitively. So there's also a very good basis growing now to do deeper analysis on. And these questions are, what is intuition according to you? That's my opening question to everyone, as well as 2 other questions as examples, like what happens if you move against your intuition? What are the results? How does it feel to move against your intuition? But also, what happens if you move with your intuition? What happens then? And the answers from my guests is just fantastic. It's just fantastic to hear people open up. And I would like to share with you. If you later on see this image, then you know you have come right. This is the image I wanted to show you. These are the guests so far in my podcast, and one of them is here today. That is Eugene Sadler Smith. He is number 3, the third episode, the second guest, and immediately I can tell you that the essence is fantastic. It's going to be about different kinds of intuition, among other the intuitive mind. And I'm not going to say so much more about that, but feel free to listen in to episode 3, which is the next one online. Eugene is also a person that is. It's very strange to talk about you, Eugene, while you're here. I have to talk about you in the third person, but highly competent, an absolute leading scholar in this field. So there's certain personal satisfaction to be able to interview you, Eugene. Also, I would like to. I almost feel like I should say something about on each of my guests, but it's not going to be possible in terms of time restrictions. But you may recognize Dr. Gary Klein here, also an absolute giant in this field, has been doing research how U.S. Marines take gut-based decisions, has been doing that since the 80s. Extremely interesting experience to interview Gary as well. The person here, you may not see him that well, Mac van Wielingen. He is a person that he's Canadian, but his dad is from Germany and the Netherlands. A Jewish person that had to flee during the Second World War from Germany to the Netherlands, ended up in resistance there, Mac's dad then, and shot down Allied pilots, smuggled them out from the Netherlands back to England. And one of their smuggling routes went through the little village where I grew up in. And it's absolutely fantastic and I have a thing with this. I have a thing with the Second World War, and I have a thing with these English pilots. So to have him on the show, and we talked about something else. We talked about his background as a banker, the founder of a financial corporate management company that is having $6 billion dollar capital under management. So we talked about intuition and decision making there, but in our offsite call, we almost solely spoke about his family and the history behind it, and how his family ended up in Canada, and how they started with nothing and created what they have created today. It's extremely gripping, and also just an example of how you connect with your guests. So just to go on what we actually spoke about during the episode, and the way Mac explains it is very eloquently. So when he is using his intuition, first of all, he defines it as inner guidance system, and he uses it to draw out the best out of people. So when he is sitting this is a real story he told me, that when he's sitting in a room with investment bankers, analysts, and he isn't feeling comfortable with the decision they're making to invest in a certain fund. When that's happening, then he would actually ask, why am I not comfortable? What is making me uncomfortable? And he draws in these other experienced financial experts into the conversation to get the best out of them and to let them tell him why he feels uncomfortable. And the word uncomfortable for him means there is something to learn here. That has been his guiding principle. And when he moves against his intuition, he feels very strongly that something is wrong. But the way he explains it creates psychological safety for everybody else in that room. So it's a very interesting experience. And he is 80 plus, living on the other side of the world, and we could connect on a deeper level almost. So that's brilliant. I would also like to say a few words about Jeanette, which is on the right-hand side. She is the author of Mindful Humans. She's also been a vice president in the global organization from CCGI before she started her own company. She has done a study in the science of mathematics. However, what she has come to understand is that intuitive intelligence is crucial if you want to create trust in the relationship. So her story is all about a brilliant mind, but somehow crashed in terms of relationships. I then started basically to study the whole topic of intuitive intelligence and reading the room to create better relationships and use that as a success factor. And that is what she now writes about, trains people about, and frankly is highly successful with. It's so difficult to choose who I'm going to talk about. Yes, Victor Dörfler, also just like Eugene, professor in the UK, and Victor has spent a great deal amount of time interviewing Nobel Prize winners in something called the Master Apprentice Project, which is really about finding out how mastery in a certain topic is being achieved. If it's logical, a sequential thought process only, or if there's an intuitive leap as well. And spoiler alert, there is an intuitive leap with all of these Nobel Prize winners. So what he's talking about is you could say how new knowledge or new insights arrive with masters, the Nobel Prize winners, and how to then backtrack it in terms of how to explain it logically. And sometimes that backtracking can take decades. And basically, this is what Einstein did when he had his breakthroughs. I feel I can say a lot more about my guests, but mindful of time, I would like to, if you have any questions, we'll do the Q&A soon. So, well, yeah, I would say there's so many interesting stories here about my guests that it is almost impossible to do them right now. The two episodes that are live is my take, number one, and as well as Sunil Gutsi, number two. Sunil is also a TEDx speaker, by the way, just as Dean Newland here, on the left-hand side, as well as Victor Dörfler, by the way. And Sunil talks about intuitive branding and how both employees as well as ordinary humans, we as the buyers, how we intuitively trust a brand or a leader. And it's extremely important to not lose trust, because this is one of the essence that he has been talking about, is that there are two different brain areas, one for trust and one for distrust. And it takes a longer time to reconnect those areas in our brains to re-establish trust. So losing trust is an extremely expensive thing for companies. And this is what he has been doing a lot of research on. And interviewing hundreds of people, of leaders, and basically base his company on. It's called Intuitive Branding. So that is episode 2. And then in a week or two, you can all look forward to episode 3 with Eugene. Very warm, very interesting, and a deep conversation on what he mentions very eloquently, intuitive intelligence. I would like to, before I open up for questions, I would like to go back to episode 1, which is my story. I started out with saying that that my goal here, the reason why I do this, is to create a safe space where people can explore what they believe intuition is. And then to me, it doesn't matter if it's experience-based only, or it's divine entity or tacit knowledge, or whatever the way you would describe what intuition is. At some point, it comes down to self-knowing, to inner knowing, a sense of being able to understand what is going on. And that lesson I've learned from many years ago when I ran into the wall, as they say in the Netherlands, so got burnt out. And what I was forced to do, and I can see if there's something in the chat. Yes, thank you. I will take the chat in just in a second. So what I was trying to say is that when I got into serious trouble when I was younger, I realized that I hadn't really been in touch with my body, with my senses, and I wasn't listening in. I was completely living a life out of my left mind, crashing, really crashing. It took me years to get back to where I am today. Basically 22 years, because I was 28 when I crashed. I'm 50 today. In those 2 decades, I was forced to not just work on myself and my health, but to not let this happen again, and to constantly ask myself the question, who am I? What do I want? What's good for me? What's not good for me? I have a logical mind. I have a university degree. I'm quite skilled in terms of analysis. Too skilled almost, because it pushed away my intuitive mind. So tapping back into my intuitive mind has put me on the journey where I am today. And the journey itself, and this is the thing, the journey itself from stuck, not really knowing what to do in life and just keep on running, distracting myself with tasks and goals and important things in life, corporate stuff. From stuck to clarity, I had to follow what I call my lodestar, my intuitive knowing. And whether you call it lodestar, your voice inside, the real you, whatever the name is, that little voice or that little thing that I call intuition, the inner knowing, it answered each time I asked. And the more I listened, the stronger it got. It's like a muscle that you test and that you try. Can I make mistakes? Yes, I'm certainly not without flaws. However, if I don't use my intuitive intelligence, I tend to make more mistakes. And there's also an element of self-betrayal in it, which feels self-loathing. But anyway, on my path to the journey from stuck to clarity, and then from clarity to trusting it enough to actually act on it, and then keep doing that, keep walking. Even sometimes I describe it as I'm building a bridge, but the bridge is not there yet. I put down my foot and I see abyss. And the moment I put down my foot, all of a sudden there's solid ground. And then I take the next step, but it's still abyss. But the moment I put down my foot, there is solid ground. And that trust to go from clarity to trust to actually do it, that is walking a thin line. And it's not to throw away your brains, it's not to throw away your planning, but it's to trust your inner knowing to the extent that you actually do it the rest of your life, being in that trust. And that is basically the journey I've taken. And that is on the back of that, I've been able to, in those 22 years, I've been able to decode. It's actually one of my participants in one of my programs that coined the term decoding intuition. She said, literally, oh my God, you are decoding intuition. That's actually true. That's what I did. I decoded it step by step, what happens. So like in the Matrix, you pause, you slow down time, and then when instead of bullets, there are signals and how to make sense of it. The inner knowing. This process of decoding intuition equals debiasing. It equals self-discovery. It equals seeing a blind spot because you have to distill between what is intuition, what is fear, what is fantasy, what's my want, what is my culture, what is my ego, and what's instinct, which is not the same thing as intuition. So basically, that story, that journey from stuck to clarity to do what I do today and to help others to get to that same point, that's why I do this. And I want to do it in a way that it combines other people that want to do the same journey. Hence, the intuitive community. So I'm done with my preaching. How do you feel now between 1 and 10? I started with that at a question earlier, between 1 and 10, and 10 was fantastic and 1 was miserable. My hope is that that number has changed.
Yes.
9.5. Good, thank you. That was the point. So the we still have time. Good, we are on time. It's unbelievable. Normally I am always late, but now it works. I'm gonna do this. Any good webinar has the call to actions. So here they come. Obviously, if you would listen to the podcast, I don't know how the algorithms work, you know, but I always know that share, like, comment, or anything like that, or give a rating or so. That always works. That seems to be the right thing to do. So please do that in case you want. If you think like this, like TEDx, if these are ideas worth spreading, then please do so in whatever way you feel it fits you. Also, please visit our community, and I will put the links here. And also, if you want more of this, if you or someone you know wants more of this, then simply reach out to me. The programs that we run are circling around psychological safety, a culture of trust, the ability to read the room for leaders and salespeople, and of course, decoding intuition to find your true fulfillment. So that was the end of this, the call to actions on my part. I will send you the links in case you didn't have them. They're now in the chat. And also, I've seen, oh my God, 9, 8, okay. Yes, thank you for your messages in this the chat. So my line of thought now is that either I talk 20 more minutes, or better, if you have any questions or comments, then let's do that. Because that's the whole point. I want to draw you in. If you don't have any questions, then I will have one for you. Here's a question. Don't you? Aha, Astrid Arnold. Don't you think that before being able to read the room, you need to be able to decode your own feelings and thoughts? Yes, that's very good. I can't see you, Astrid, but I like the... there you are. Yes, I like that question a lot. Yes, it is true. You could see it as a funnel. If you think of a sales funnel, like a traditional marketing funnel, on top, we have this fantastic Japanese concept, reading the air. Then we have reading the situation. Then we have reading the room. Then we have reading the person. And then we have reading ourselves at the end, at the bottom. And I like your comment. Yes, the more you can read yourself, the more we can read the room. Because you're asking the question probably because if you are not aware of how you are, and it will be more difficult to differentiate between the signals that your own system is giving you compared to the signals that you are receiving from people in the room. Did I explain that correctly? I think you disappeared. Okay. But is it a necessity? The whole point of working with reading the room is to be able to differentiate that. That's the whole point. If we read the room, we see what's happening, but everything we see reflects in us. There is a reflection. We are one big resonance box. So it's important to understand what's us, our own blind spot and ecosystem, and what's not. But also, intention is important. So if we read the room because we are afraid, psychologically unsafe, we most likely read the room to create a false sense of security. If I'm able to anticipate and mitigate whatever is coming from the power in the room, I can sort of control it somehow. Like it's like a fake feeling of safety. The ideal way for me, the ideal reason for me to read the room would be to make feel others safe. So let me see more questions here. By the way, you can speak up. You feel free to just say the questions, so I don't have to read them. Anyone just wants to say, shout out the question. That makes it easier. All right.
Hey, Maurice,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes, I
Yeah,
can.
great.
Yes.
Yeah, to be frank, I like this session very much. And
Thank you.
I'm curious one thing. What makes you, choose intuitive as your careers nowadays? This makes me very interesting.
Yes, thank you, Fisher. So nice to have you on. Yes, first of all, I've always been highly aware of my own, let's say, intuition or intuitive mind. And the reading, it actually started reading the room very early on when I was younger. I've been trained. I can see that my upbringing trained me to read the room, but also the crash forced me to look inside myself. And if I'm honest, all my life I've been inspired by people that have been working with this kind of topics. So if I look back on my life, I can see that the people that I have always regarded very highly and really got and really inspired me were often people that did this kind of work. So I've always wanted to do that. So basically, I'm giving in to what my intuition has been pulling on me for decades. It has not been leaving me alone. Do this, do this, do this. So yeah, it's sort of. I mean, there are people that say they have a calling, and they have said, "Me, Maurice, this is your calling." And maybe it is. Maybe I should just name it as it is. I feel that this is my calling, not out of to do greater good for the world. It's really something that I just simply want to do strongly. Let me put it this way: ignoring this, not doing it, is not an option. It would feel as self-betrayal. This is what I feel is my purpose.
Thank you.
I hope that was a good answer. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Jacqueline, do you want to say or?
Yes, I was curious about what you said that you have always had it with you. You hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yep.
Yes. Okay, good. You talked about your intuition as a young person, a young boy,
Yes.
or along your youth. Did you understand it really, or is it something that you had to figure out before you said you crashed while you had a bad experience at the age of 28? Did you figure out and understand more or get a clearer sight of it?
Yeah, I did. When I was 13, 14, I did. I became highly aware of surroundings, self-conscious in a sense that but I do at that age I would not have called it intuition or intuitive intelligence or inner knowing. I would not have called it at that age. That came later. The vocabulary came later. The awareness came first.
Yes, of course. That was that was what I meant. Like some kind of, even if you couldn't, it was not tangible with your finger on it, you had some kind of sense that it was there.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you could
very
not
much.
really. I don't know. I can relate in a way very, very strongly to what I'm asking you. That's why maybe I'm projecting it on you, but I understand what you said. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you. And to be honest, it has been growing on me. So the older I got, I've been reading tons of books, among other from Eugene here. It's been growing on me. And at some point, this is a story I can share with you as well. At some point, I was holding a public speaking session, and someone threw at me some really nasty comments if it comes down to intuition. And intuition wasn't even the topic of that speaking session. It was something else. It was communication. And I had no arguments. Actually, I had them. I didn't trust myself enough. And then I started to deep dive in the literature that's out there, among other from Eugene here. So and with that came the vocabulary in a different way. But the awareness has been there already from early age. Yes.
Another question, and then I won't ask more. From a male perspective, how must have that been in business wise to have this and have remarks from seeing things with other eyes and speaking about things or communicate in another way?
Yeah.
Or leading?
Absolutely forbidden. That's why I crashed. Absolutely the reason I couldn't actually here in Holland, Sweden, it's not common to talk about that. However, in sales, I've worked for a very long time in sales. It's actually a gift. You don't say it that easily, but it's a gift. You can read the room and you can feel that something is going the wrong way in this discussion. And that was a big help. So a lot of stuff that I've actually cultivated, I've been testing and trying out in sales for a very long time before I do it here. Okay, let's move on. There was one more person that had sorry, I can't see all the comments. Paul, did you have a question?
Hi, yeah, sorry. The question, well, I asked a few questions, but the one I think is perhaps most relevant is really about whether or not the intuition was devalued by the Enlightenment, which focused on the rational, and therefore we've lost our faith, our trust in intuition, and that's what you're trying to help us restore.
Yes, I do. I'm a bridge between left and right, logic and intuitive mind. And the idea that we have two machines, left, the machine one and machine two, the fast and the slow. And why not use both? There may be specific moments where one machine is better than the other. For example, if we need to compute, if you have to invest in something, like Mac van Wielingen did, if you have to calculate, you're using your logical mind. But if you have to make a judgment call, you need your feelings, you need your emotions, not to go only on them, but they actually create context for data points. A judgment call is based on something more than just data. And this is why people like Kahneman, but also Klein, came to the conclusion that there's a specific point in the decision-making process where intuition fits in. So if you look at it from a evolutionary point of view, the ancients were very, very intuitive. They used intuitive mind for direction in life, and then the logical mind to figure out how, or to fix the practical tasks. In the irrational age we are living in, it's flipped. The rational mind is the dominant one, and intuitive mind is sort of, I don't know, non-existent maybe. But it does create problems because there are parts of our life that demand intuitive action or intuitive knowing. And Kahneman put that at the end of a decision process. Klein puts it in the beginning to find direction and to use your intuition accordingly. For me, it doesn't matter when you use it, how you use it, as long as we don't equal intuition with being impulsive. So that's the whole point with decoding intuition. What does my intuition tell me right now? Can we decode it? Can we decipher it? Can we debias it? And stop, pause, analyze, look inside, contemplate, and then start acting on it step by step. So it's a very, yeah, Paul, you're right, by the way, in your comment. And the longer I work with this, and the more CEOs I ask, and the more people like Eugene and Gary I interview, the more it is a mystery to me why you would disregard your intuitive intelligence. I mean, it differentiates the good and the great.
I think your comment there just actually also answers the other question I asked, which was, is there a difference between intuition and gut instinct?
Yeah, that depends on what you mean with it. So first, now we're running out of time, but fast. Instinct is the body being moved, like primary instincts, like lust, fight, flight. It's regarding body survival purely, food, hunger, runaway. It acts before the mind's even aware of it, whereas intuition wants to inform us. So gut instinct, it's probably something else than if it's instinct. But the way I see intuition, it's actually intuition is more than just gut. We have body instinct, we have gut feeling then, or stomach feeling. We have intuitive heart, and we have intuitive mind. So these are the four receptive centers that we have. That's just as humans. That's how we are biologically wired. And that's the places where we receive intuitive signals. But they are different. They have different languages, if you like. The channel is different. So we need to decode that. So the gut is instinct. Gut feeling is intuition. But intuition is more than just gut feeling. Thank you, by the way. Anna asks, how did you learn to listen to your body signals and subtle sensations? Well, it's a long process. How I've been learning myself, basically, is I'm not kidding you. Every morning, I'm having pen and paper, like a real pen and paper, and I'm doing meditative writing every morning and asking myself these questions and sitting, listening in, and feeling in, basically, and being coached, by the way. I'm not doing it all by myself. I've had the luxury of having good coaches, also a good somatic coach. Yeah, definitely. And not just that. I mean, I've been working, doing, I have to say the core, I've been doing the Enneagram practitioner for many years, which really helped me to understand my inner drivers, which were fear-based. I have a fear-based strategy somewhere in me. And that helped me also to understand what's fear and what's intuition. Because intuition, this is the last thing we're going to preach today, intuition has two main functionalities. It wants to keep you alive, but either says stop, don't do it, or it says yes, go there. And the latter, the go there, that's the difficult one. The stop one is easy. We recognize that fast. But the one that's pulling you out of your comfort zone will pull you somewhere where it is less comfortable. That is a little bit scary. That is the road not taken yet. And that is the difficult part. But that's also where the freedom lies. And that's why I'm doing this, basically. To follow the pull. However, to make a difference between the pull because of ego and fantasy and the pull because it really is your intuition. And that was Fisher's question to me, why do I do this? This has been pulling me since I was very young, basically. So it is 10:02, and I promised you I would end. I feel very sorry to end this session but I'm going to leave you with one question. What do you think of this? Does this energize you?
It does a lot. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Risa. So why I ask it? Because if you want more of this, and there is more, as I mentioned earlier, there is of course, the podcast and the community. And if you're interested for yourself, for your own sake, to understand your own pull, if you like, towards some form of true fulfillment, then please feel free to reach out to me. And I want to thank you for your questions and for your participation. I will be available for 10 more minutes, but let's end it here officially because I know people have to go to the next meeting. So I'll end this one now officially. I'm gonna say thank you, but I will be here exactly until 1 o'clock or until the hour is over. So thank you, and if you have any questions, stay on and just open your mind.
Hello, Maurice.
Yes.
Astrid here.
Hello,
Hi.
Astrid.
No, I just wanted to comment because I've been on a long road like you, also with personal experience in disease, pain, and so on, that brought me on this road of the neuroscience, intuition, and so on. And to me, is kind of the tricks, no? To really be able to dive into my intuition is to really embody safety. You just talked about the fears, no? And what I found out for me, I don't know if you agree, is that when you're able to bring down your fears and really embody this safety, at that moment is when the true intuition comes out. Because for me, true intuition is the mixture of the life experience together with the I lost the word, not the intuition, what comes out naturally, no?
Okay.
But if you're not safe, in that moment is when our intuition is really negatively biased, no? So for me, the trick is somehow, if you're in a meeting or whatever, in order to be able to read it really perfectly, really be able to embody the safety, because then you have no fear and you will be able to really have like an unbiased view of where you're in.
Yeah, thank you, Astrid. I agree with you. That's one of the reasons why I work with psychological safety. When people order a workshop or whatever regarding psychological safety, they want tools, like outer tools, to create it in a group. But the real trick is, and that is the beauty of it, when you work with those tools, it's actually an inner process. You have to feel. That's why I want to guide them as well, because you have to feel safe in yourself. You have to trust yourself enough to when those intuitive signals actually pop up, that you do something with it. And the decoding part is not the same thing as rejecting them. The decoding part is not the same thing as thinking it so much through with your logical mind that you basically kill again the actual intuition. So it does, and it is a bit scary sometimes. It isn't always, it can be very self-confronting. And that's also the reason why I believe that some of us don't want to go that way, because it opens maybe a new way of looking at stuff and about themselves.
Yeah,
It's
you
not
need to
an
do the
easy
shadow
way.
work.
Yes.
The shadow work is very scary.
Yeah, because if you ask people what intuition is and how they perceive it, most of the time you will hear something like a feeling. It's a feeling. And that is true. And if feelings come up, if one feeling comes up, more come up. And that is sometimes confronting.
Yeah. I mean, it's an unspoken language of a body somehow.
Yes. Yeah,
Thank you.
there's this fantastic his name is Antonio Damasio, is a brain, yeah, you may have heard of him, a brain scientist, and I forgot the name, neuroscience person.
Yeah, neuroscientist.
Yeah, thank you. He explains it very beautiful how the body as a system sends signals to the body, to our cognitive awareness, and it uses feelings for that. And if those
the
feelings are
somatic
not
markers, I think. we
somatic
call them.
markers, exactly, yeah. And if those aren't there, we're going to, well, not able, we will not have a possibility to make decisions or to have a relationship, not even with ourselves.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Is Anna still here?
Yeah.
Did you say that?
Yeah, I did. From my own journey as well, it's similar to yours, Maurice. Had health issues and breakdown, and I had to, get something to happen for getting unstuck. And a few years ago, I went on a course to in somatic coaching, and that helped me transform and to use my body first to center and relax, and then to get closer to my or get clarity from my intuition. So I recognize all that you all have said today with it's pulling you and you getting guidance, inner guidance from something. And resistance is a big part of the process, and not until you're ready, you're going there. I think, I believe.
Yeah, it could be. There is a resistance in terms of, because if it's pulling you out of your comfort zone, then by definition, yeah, there is resistance.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I want to thank you all very much. And now we have to run to our next events and meetings. So everybody, maybe I've not addressed all questions. I'm sorry about that. I will try to do it by email later on. But I hope to see you again. So let's call it that way. Until next time.
Thank you very much for inviting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a nice day.
Same to you.
Until next time.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Maurice. Very interesting.
Yes.
Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.